In the heart of Dixie where the eagles fly, land of the brave where the bullets don't lie. We fought for our freedom with guns by our side. Red, white, and blue, our southern pride. Raise the flag high, let freedom ring from the rolling mountains to the flatlands. We sing, no one can take our rights. Our Second Amendment will defend our land. With every bullet we stand. We were born in the USA, land of the free. With guns in our hands, we'll forever be. Southern blood runs deep through our veins. We'll stand tall for America till the end of our days.
Well, hey there. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. I know it's been a while since we've been together, about a week or so. I do want to say that last week we did this stream on being your own first responder. We started talking about first aid kits and preparing for the worst. And honestly, I got a couple of really nice email comments in about that. Folks, definitely, it's one of those things that I did it because I know it can make a difference. I know it can help. And again, as someone who's worked on the street for a few hundred years, definitely one of those things I want to share what knowledge I have that you can use to help yourself, help your family, help those around you, and overall help the community. Again, I'd love it if we could get criminals to quit criminaling and psychos to quit psychoing. That may come with time, I don't know. But to be able to mitigate the consequences of their bad behaviors, definitely a big one. Alrighty. I see Mary's in the chat. Yes, as she says, when you come in, please remember, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, comment, share the stream out if you can. Please help us grow this channel. We're trying to do this, and again, we're trying to put out some good content there to help everybody, get good information out. And we are doing a part 2 to that. I've actually reached out and tried to recruit a couple of my wonderful EMS colleagues to help with the part 2 of that, to help demonstrate some of the skills and film some of the stuff. I want it to be useful. I want it to be material that you can take home with you, say, wow, okay, I learned something that I may be able to save a life with. So from that side, it's taking a little time to put together, but it's in the works, I promise you. It's just, we're all kind of working weird schedules right now. Beyond that, we've got 3 big stories tonight, a couple of little stories, but 3 key stories tonight. First one we're going to talk about is the entire debacle involving F.E. Warren Air Force Base out in Wyoming. Well, not the whole base, just one person, 2 people, 1 firearm. If you're not familiar with this case, we're going to backtrack. On July 20th, about 1 in the morning, there was a gunshot went off. A 21-year-old airman in the 90th Security Forces Group was killed, tragically. He was from Greenville, Kentucky, died, shot by, at the time, an M18 pistol. M18 is the military designation. If you're not familiar, it's something that's on the SIG P320 frame. The story at the time was that he had taken the weapon off of his side, or off of him, and in holster and all, which again, the holster attaches to like a drop thigh rig or a drop leg rig, he had taken it off, placed it on the table, and it just went off in the holster, shooting and killing this poor airman. I had a couple of questions at the time, and again, we'll talk about what some of my questions were. I didn't foresee this being the question, but a couple of my questions were, number 1, was there anyone there who saw this happen? Again, there was a very complete story that came out how the gun, he took it off, he put it on the table, it just went off and shot him. Well, how did we know this if the only witness was deceased? Did he say it before, or would they just find it that way and assume it? Or was there someone there? Was there a camera there? Well, I never saw camera footage. Was there anyone in the room with him? Yeah. Again, how did they get this very quickly? Story came out, and okay. Now, this story, unfortunately or fortunately, for whatever you want to say, played into a lot of stories. There has been a great deal of drama surrounding the SIG P320. The drama has been out there. There's been rumors of it just going off in the holster. There's been videos in a few cases of a SIG going off in a holster, not touched by anybody. There have been law enforcement officers shot by their own weapons with a video camera, closed circuit TV camera, monitoring the area, and the officer's hands are nowhere near it. So it appears to have happened, but SIG did do some upgrades on them. Again, a SIG P320 just going off is not unheard of. And there's a lot of people out there who are very pro SIG who said, well, maybe there was a problem, but they fixed it. There's some people out there who say it never happened. And there's other people out there who say it's just as dangerous as it ever was. And again, I personally never weighed in on it. And I'll tell you why. I don't own a SIG 320. I have never shot a SIG 320. I have never carried a SIG 320. I've got experience with two different SIGs many moons ago, probably about 1992 or so. And in those days, my SIG P220 and the 45 caliber, SIG P226 and 9mm, both were incredibly reliable high-end weapons. I never had a problem with either of them. So again, and this was when law enforcement first went over to semi-autos. We never had a problem with anything that was SIG. Now, that again we're talking early 90s. So maybe this 320 is a lemon. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't know enough to really say anything about it besides, well, so-and-so says it is, and so-and-so says it isn't, and such gun tuber did a great drop test on it, and such gun tuber said it's not. Again, I never felt qualified to spill my guts or have any kind of opinion on it. I know that if we follow our 4 basic rules of firearm safety, with any gun, the chances of it hurting us are kind of low. So, I scratch my head now. This all comes on, and we hear, well, this SIG P320, he took the holster and all off of his rig, put it on the table, and it just went off. Well, my first thought, how do we know the whole story? How does this story come out so quickly? Maybe there was a camera, but there's no footage. My second question is a little bit more technical. We're going to use this little play toy. This is a plastic child's toy. But if I take a weapon off, and I've carried a weapon for many years, if I take it off and I go to put it down, chances are I put it down with the barrel away from me. It's not usual for me to sit and set the gun down pointing towards me. I've taken weapons off and put them down on a table many times, and they're put down in such a way that I pick them up. Again, I'm trying to get it on camera. They put this way. So for me to take a gun off and say, oh, well, he took it off his drop rig and he put it like this and it went off and shot him, it would shoot the wall. And now, if he said, put it on the table, it went through the wall, I'd say, okay, that would kind of fit with the body mechanics of it. But he put it down and it went off and struck him. Why do you put it down facing you? Personally, I don't like any guns pointed at me. I mean, this is, I know, a plastic kid's toy, but I would not take a loaded gun and deliberately point it at my chest if I'm sitting down at a table. It just didn't make sense. And again, the practical side of the body mechanics. So I watched to see more come out. Well, Again, you have an airman killed tragically on base. Total tragedy. 21-year-old loses his life over some, is it a freak accident? What the hell is going on? Okay. Now, the P320 haters, they took this as SIG has just committed an act of war. I mean, it was the P320 lovers. They jumped to defend. The story was a good story. Who was it? The mechanics didn't make sense. How do we have the story? Questions that when you're really, if you don't have a love or hate for SIG and you start picking out the details, you little scratch your head there. Well, the U.S. Air Force Global Command Strike Force, they immediately suspended the use of the M18, which is the SIG P320. That's their name for it. They also suspended the M17, from what I know. All their security personnel, turn them in. We're not even fooling with it. We just had one of our own killed by this thing just going off. I understand that. Instructors and ranges. A lot of instructors said, don't bring them to my classes. Some ranges don't even want them on the range. And I get that. If there is that much of a problem, real perceived or imagined, with a weapon, until things are sorted out, safety makes sense. Okay. And again, this started July 20th. And I guarantee you, SIG's sales took a dive because of it. So, okay. Now, this past Friday, on the 8th of August, so we're talking now, 20 days later, roughly, there has been an unnamed airman arrested. Now, again, the airman who was shot with the weapon has passed away. There has been an airman arrested. He's been charged with making a false statement to law enforcement, obstruction of justice, okay, and involuntary manslaughter. Now, if they thought that this gun may have had any chance that it just went off on its own, why are they charging someone with involuntary? Involuntary means I accidentally took a life. Okay. See Alec Baldwin. Involuntary manslaughter. Okay. Now, we have this airman, another airman in the unit, getting charged in the case for A, false statement, B, obstruction, and C, the big one, involuntary manslaughter. Well, I'm guessing now we know there was a second person, at least a second, maybe more, in the room. And I'm guessing now we know that why we had such a complete story of they just took it off. Now, did the other airman just take it off, put it on the table, and the gun in the holster went off all on its own and struck and killed the poor 21-year-old airman? I don't know. But if it did do that, why would they charge him with involuntary? Or was he tinkering with it, not realizing there was a live round in the chamber, maybe? I don't know. It's speculatory. What I've got to say, this is evidence that it took 20 days to get to the point of someone else has now been charged with involuntary manslaughter in the death of this 21-year-old. Meaning to me that he didn't just take his gun off, put it on the table, and it went off all on its own in the holster. There's going to be a hell of a lot more to the story. How much we'll find out, I don't know. This is definitely, I'm not saying that suddenly the 320s are all perfect and I'm, going to go out and buy 5 SIGs tomorrow. No. I'm also not saying that, they're just trying to pin it on this poor kid. And we know how the 320s are. It shows that sometimes we need to wait for the facts and the whole story to come out about what's really going on in the situation before we pass judgment on it. And again, I know the history of the SIGs. I get that. I totally understand it. On the other side of the coin, though, it seems like SIG may be innocent in this one, at least in this one. And again, I've seen some of the other videos. I've watched it. I've researched it. I can't come up with enough of an oomph to say, yeah, I believe 100% it's good or it's bad, or maybe they had a batch of defective ones. I don't know. Again, not owning or carrying a 320, I really feel that, you know, I'm not in a position to plus or minus it. On the other side of the coin is, unless you've got some serious experience with it, not a lot of people are. So we're going to be watching this one. I'm watching it very closely because in some ways, if this turns out that it was you know, the other guy was playing with it, or they were doing something inappropriate, or he was doing something, and Sig took the hit for it, I almost feel bad for Sig because everyone believed it. I mean, I hate to say it, if someone came out and said the same thing right now about a 1911 government model, everyone would be like, really? That thing's been tried and proven for years. But Sig's sort of questionable history with the 320 made this believable. So I get that. But, we have to sort of wait for the truth. That's why one reason why when a lot of these stories come out, I don't rush to be first. I try to rush to be correct. So again, we'll find out more as this other airman get arrested. We don't have a name on him yet, but charging someone with involuntary manslaughter makes it sound like someone was accidentally involved with that gun going off. Alrighty. Now, this is one of my little stories, and this is, it happened right up the road from me. It happened at a local mall, and it was a local mall that I've been to a few times. I actually used to do some work for a company right in the area that was maybe 1,000 yards from where this mall is. And so I've been known to go to this mall a time or two. Well, this gets kind of interesting, gets kind of ugly, but we have this one occurred up in Spartanburg, South Carolina at the Westgate Mall. I'll give you a little background of it before we clear up the video. There's a gentleman who is going around possibly on drugs, possibly doing who knows what, who is harassing people and trying to carjack them. Well, a woman turns around and basically she is armed, she is carrying, she challenges him and his attempt to carjack her, and he thinks better of the idea. The person she's with, they start calling 911, the police respond, and this idiot is running around the parking lot. At the point this idiot is running around in the parking lot of the Westgate Mall, we pick up the video here, and we're going to sort of watch just a little bit to sort of see what's going on and how things work out for this would-be carjacker, because I have a feeling he's going to have a really bad day. Just a hunch. Here we go. Check it out. Okay, that gentleman there in the tank top, the black tank top, is the one who's running around. One woman is filming him from in the car. It, of course, was raining at the time. And this guy is trying to get out of there. He don't want to be there. So what's his best choice to do? Think I'll go for a joyride. Yep, he tries to hop in the Spartanburg police car. This ain't gonna work out real well. Now, as you can see, coming into frame from the right side, an officer sees him trying to get in this police car, and the officer takes offense at it. That pop was a taser deployment. Yeah, apparently when you try to carjack a bunch of people and the police are out looking for you in the parking lot and you double back and jump in the patrol car, the police take offense. You ain't going to jack their ride. I mean, you know how much paperwork that officer would have to do if that happened? Now, this officer is trying to get him out of the car, and he's given up a lot of reach on him. I don't know body weight wise, it's hard to tell with a vest and carrier on, but he's definitely not as tall and lanky as the other dude is, so he's given up some reach. Oh, he gets whacked right in the face. That officer took a punch in the face. Did he go down? Did he give up? Nah. He comes right back with the suplex, ladies and gentlemen. 2-point takedown, blue. Now, at this point, he's got one of his arms pinned behind his back. The female officer is there backing him up. She's got her taser out. That's that yellow thing you can see. And she's doing her best to try to help him get this individual in cuffs. Now, he's got his other arm pinned up underneath him to make it impossible to cuff. And we'll see the officer deliver a few strikes here, basically continuously striking him until such time as the guy gives up his arm.
Give me your hand. Oh yeah.
Basically what they're doing there, although it looks really ugly, you heard, give me your hand. He's still got that arm underneath him. That officer is going to strike that side to make him give up his hand. Again, yes, they've got him pinned, but the fight ain't over until the cuffs are locked. So, again, we watch this here. It plays out. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, that one again was right here in local downtown Spartanburg, South Carolina at the Westgate Mall. What do you learn from this? You might go to jail if you try to carjack someone. You fight with the cops, you're going to go to jail sore on that one. The 2-point suplex, gotta love that. That was definitely, one of the ones that came across my feed. And with it being so local to me, I definitely found the amusement in it. Alrighty. Onwards and upwards to our next story. This one comes out of Chicago, or just outside of Chicago in Cook County. There was a get-together, a little house party on the 2nd of August. And at about 8 p.m. in the evening, this ain't 3 a.m., folks, 8 o'clock in the evening, house party on the 2nd. Pretty simple thing to do. Well, car pulls up and 2 gentlemen hop out of the car, and when they hop out of the car, they proceed to open fire on the house party, wounding a total of 5 people, including a 4-year-old. Fortunately, all of them are supposedly doing well. No lasting major injuries. We don't know all the details of it, but what we do know is a person at the event, a good guy with a gun at the party, or at the little get-together, soiree, whatever we're going to call it, he drew his concealed carry gun and opened fire on the 2 bad guys. One of the assailants was taken out on scene. The other one was wounded and picked up at the hospital. Now, I can pick on Chicago for their gun stuff all the time. I can pick on Chicago for their drive-bys and their gun crime and their stupidity. We're in a situation here where Chicago, with some of the most restrictive gun laws, Cook County, some of the most restrictive gun laws, has 2 bad guys with guns, which, based on the brass I saw on the scene when I was reviewing this, looked to be 5.56 brass. That would be something that would likely be fired out of maybe an AR-15. Now, wait a minute. Guns are illegal. Shooting soirees is illegal, or house parties. ARs are illegal. It's working so damn well. The only person there who was able to do anything about it was a good guy with a gun. It was not the bad guys. There was no one there to hold the bad guys to account. Had it not been for the good guy with the gun, how many people at that party would have been struck? Now, that good guy with the gun did right, put one of the idiots down. The second one's been arrested, and, things worked out. But my point is, gun laws didn't stop any of it. Both of the bad guys have histories. Both of the bad guys shouldn't have had what they had. There wasn't a law out there to stop them. The only thing that did stop them was good guys. And fortunately, this good guy was able to match force with force and stop the killing. It's that simple. And they haven't named the good guy that I've seen. I haven't seen any pictures. But, sir, I gotta say, hats off to you. You did what was right. You protected yourself, your friends, the people at the get-together. You protect the innocent. That's what lawful gun owners do. So we can try all the gun control in the world. We can give up all sorts of freedoms in the hope of safety. And we can be as safe as they were in Chicago when two psychos pulled up and opened up with a 5.56. Yeah. Well said, ma'am. Yes. Yeah, criminals, they follow the law. They do it so well. They really do. Didn't you know that? And I'm sure that we will hear later from the mother or the auntie or whatever from the young lady, the young gentleman who was shot, that they were on their way, I'm sure, to a church fundraiser, to a bake sale, and they were just stopping by to see if anybody wanted to contribute anything to the church. Because, let's face it, we know that we wouldn't have a crime problem. No. But we show every time it happens, bad things happen. But why do these bad things happen? Well, they happen because they're allowed to happen. Alrighty. Next thing I want to hit on, and before we get to our big story of the day, our big story is going to be talking about Fort Stewart, Georgia, because there's a lot to unpack with that one. But before we go to that, I wanted to announce, pleased to have a wonderful new sponsor, and I have an ad play for them. Check out our newest sponsor here, and this ad will be probably playing on a lot of our videos in the near future on this and other channels. Check it out.
A few years ago, I couldn't breathe, but then I started taking this, Comply. Now I breathe just fine. Side effects of Comply may include dizziness, obedience, improved breathing during police encounters, and sudden respect for authority. Do not resist while taking Comply. Ask your officer if Comply is right for you. A few years ago.
Yes, that's right. Congratulations, George. Clean and sober. Yeah, that's who that is, if you weren't wondering. Yeah, show me a criminal who follows the law. Oh, wait, if they did, they wouldn't be criminals. Exactly. Gun control laws, time and time again, only apply or affect the behavior of people who elect to obey them. It's kind of like putting up a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. That's great. People still go 70. Trust me, I see it all the time. If there's no one there to stop them from going 70, they're going to go 75. Yeah. Thanks, Mary. I thought you'd appreciate that one. There's one of our newest sponsors. We're going to have that video pretty regularly. Sorry, folks, if that offends. I had to go there. I saw that. I got to give credit where credit is due. Mr. Scott Awesome sent me that. And that it was just too good. Too good to pass up. So, yeah, try Comply if it's right for you. Ask your doctor. Now, our latest one. This is kind of interesting. This happened on August 6th. We had a suspect at Fort Stewart, Georgia, about 11:20 in the morning. Rumors Fort went on lockdown. There was an active shooter on the property. Active shooter in a military base. It's happened, unfortunately, a few times before. Start looking at what's going on with it. we ended up with 5 individuals wounded. Now, the shooter was 28 years of age, I believe. He's been in the Army since 2018. They went back and they didn't go through all the details of his records, but they said he had not been to any active combat areas, no mental health history, no PTSD history, because that's the first thing you think is, okay, someone's on base shooting. Is he, having a PTSD? Is he breaking with reality, something? No. Now, Fort Stewart in Georgia is right down here by Savannah. And this gentleman just opens fire. He worked in supply. He worked clerical. So again, no forward deployments, no combat, no nothing. And they're still questioning the motive. We've heard a few different reports of motives. His father has said some stuff. I don't put a lot of credibility in it until the military has documentation of it or what. Now, Fort Stewart, when you look at it, and before we go any further, it was stopped by multiple members of the military who actually tackled and wrestled the gun out of his hands, etc. Okay. Now, Fort Stewart, like most military bases, is kind of a small community. There's between 10,000 people on base. Some military personnel live there. Some families live there. They've got 3 K-5 schools, K through 5 schools on base. It's 280,000 acres, so it's not a small facility. And one thing we do know is that it is largely a gun-free zone. Now, people say military gun-free. Yeah, military bases are some of the most restrictive firearms locations ever. The military's weapons are locked up in the armory. If you're going out for practice or range practice, you go out, you sign one out, you take it out, you come back in. It's accounted for. And a lot of times, depending on how high up you are on the food chain, you've got to get approval from someone on the food chain to go dare to sign one out. They've got to call the armory and say, yes, so-and-so's coming over. You can issue him this with this many rounds. You account for your rounds. You account for everything. Okay. This was a personal weapon. Personal weapons are generally not allowed on base at all. So if we picture this huge 280,000 acre gun-free zone, because gun-free zones make us safer, remember that part? Yeah. We have a 280,000 acre gun-free zone. If you're entering this gun-free zone, your vehicle is subject to inspection. They have canines. They have armed personnel at the gates. The only people allowed to carry on base are the people working the gate, military police, or in the Navy, it would be shore patrol. Yeah. But, well, Mary, I see your comment. But the thing is, if you're not MP, you're not working the gate, you're not like on a Navy base, shore patrol, or something like that, personal weapons, not allowed, period, the end. We all joke about the fact that, how did this possibly go on a military base? Well, the way it goes on a military base is everybody is disarmed. So, now, if it's a Navy base and they're guarding one of the nuke subs, you got shore patrol personnel or your guard personnel, yeah. But general, average, everyday people working on the base, much less the shooter who worked in a clerical capacity, he had as much right to have that gun on that base, probably less than I would. I wouldn't be allowed to bring a weapon on that base. You wouldn't. Unless you. But the thing is, you've got a gun-free zone where a madman sneaks a gun on. They're investigating how he got it on. They're going through all this. Shoots, 5 of his colleagues. Many of them in his office. Fortunately, all of them will survive. So we've got 5 wounded. 3 of them, I believe, were treated locally. 2 of them taken to off-base hospitals. All, again, expected to come through this okay. So what do we look at? Well, number 1, gun-free zone. Failed again. Keep telling me they're going to work, but yeah, didn't happen. Number two, and this is a big one, they talked about the men and women who rushed this guy and disarmed him. Well, heroes, every one of them. The good guys were disarmed. The bad guy had the gun. Imagine that. Also, of interest to note, and this sort of brings us back to where we started when we talked about the be your own first responder stuff. The other military personnel on scene who are trained in things like TCCC or tactical combat casualty care, things like that, they immediately went to the aid of the wounded. Here we've got 5 people wounded, all going to survive, all having decent outcomes. Now, was it that the bad guy just didn't know how to shoot his own gun? Was it that the bad guy just wasn't doing it very well? You've got a military trained individual, a sergeant, someone who's got 6, 7 years in the military, somebody who just recently re-enlisted a while back. Yeah. His rampage was stopped, number one, by the heroes who took down and stopped the killing. But the carnage and the aftermath of it was stopped by the other heroes who jumped in to stop the dying. If you're going to sustain a gunshot wound, that's a bad day. But sustaining a gunshot wound among people who are trained to respond to that, who are trained how to control bleeding, how to limit, guess what? Now, they don't even have formal on-base EMS from what I was gathering. I think they've got like a first aid squad in a hospital and maybe a basic life support unit. They were calling multiple municipal ambulances to come back them up that had to come out a ways. But the people on the scene, the first responders, the people who responded to the shooting, they were the heroes. So we had really, really great outcome on that. And as good an outcome as you can expect. Now, the scumbag who did the shooting is in custody. I'm not going to use his last name, but I did notice one thing when I was looking at everything. His first name is Cornelius, and it is spelled with a Q. What more is there to say? You can take your own thoughts about that. You can figure out where we're going with that. But again, this guy, no warning signs, no nothing. They're going through his file. If we hear any more about it, I will definitely, bring that out and address that out. To me, it's one of those things of, I don't know where he got it. So, definitely problematic by all stretches of the imagination. And I agree with you, Mary. He has no excuse for his actions. And, from the standpoint of, trying to blame anything on anyone, that's just plain evil in my opinion. But what are you going to do? They can try to say what they want. And I just want to close out with this, since we've had our, little laugh of the evening. What our dear friend Michael Cargill has to say about firearms. Check it out.
Did you know a gun will not fire unless you pull the trigger? We conducted an in-house study with 3 different firearms to prove this claim. And here are the results.
Fire! Fire! Fire!
So having seen the results of our study, we have a simple question. And you can answer in the comment section down below. A gun will not fire unless A, it decides to do so using free will, or B, a human pulls the trigger. As always, more guns equals less crime. Right there and buy yourself a gun.
Now, as far as SIG, I don't know if he tested SIG in that. I actually sent him an email and suggested that he send that one out. But yeah, definitely something worthwhile to check into. Y'all have a wonderful night. Sorry I haven't been around much. Just wanted to get this one out because I thought, the Fort Stewart thing, when it's like this guy goes on a rampage, shoots 5 people, and they're all doing real well. And then you hear from, well, these people went and rendered aid immediately. I'm like, yeah, they had training. They put the training to use. It does make a difference. Be smart. Be safe. Till next time. Bye, folks.